Wow, we have some major breaking news to react to here on this Tuesday, March 11th, day 2 of NFL free agency. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. I'm still wet, just got out of the shower, but we have to talk about this. And I actually hate the move for Philadelphia. Rarely do I disagree with General Manager Howie Roseman, but I do here. According to reports, the Eagles are trading safety Garnder-Johnson to the Houston Texans in exchange for former first-round pick guard Kenyon Green plus a pick swap. So Garnder-Johnson and a 2026 sixth-rounder to Houston for Green and a 2026 fifth. Deebo Samuel blocked me on Twitter. He got traded. Garnder-Johnson clapped back at me at Twitter. He got traded. Don't shoot the messenger. In all seriousness, though, what does this mean for Philadelphia? Why was this move made? Let's talk about it, but first, this is why you subscribe to the channel. Anytime there's breaking Eagles news, regardless of where I am, what I'm doing, even if I'm in the shower, I'm going to hop in front of a camera on a microphone to talk about it all. So join the movement and subscribe to Philadelphia Eagles Now today. So we know that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is an emotional guy. We know that he's very passionate. At sometimes he can play and act psycho. I love that about him because that's what makes him a special and unique player. And he was a focal point of the Eagles defense in 2022 that went to the Super Bowl. An emotional leader who brought swagger, confidence, physicality, and no fear to this Eagles team. And he tied with Justin Simmons in 2022 for the NFL league lead in interceptions. He was really good that year, and what was so impressive in 2022 is that he had rarely played safety prior to that with the New Orleans Saints. He played some snaps there, but he had more than 1,000 snaps out of the slot. But that positional versatility has also led to him being a unique and special player. But when he left in free agency, obviously on bad terms, and departed for the Detroit Lions, he got a one-year deal. The Eagles sorely missed in 2023 his play, his instincts, his big play ability, his swagger, his leadership, his emotion, his heartbeat, and the tone that he set. And so I know that he's a lot to deal with. I know that given him being an emotional, up and down guy, the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson experience can be a little bit of a roller coaster, but I think that the value outweighs all of that. And we saw it once again when he came back to Philadelphia in 2024. He played great. He stayed healthy. He was a leader in that Eagles secondary, and the Eagles thrived off of his swagger, off of his heartbeat, off of his confident step. And now they lose that, number one. And number two, they lose yet another defensive starter as they try to repeat as Super Bowl champions in 2025. And they lose another marquee player on this Eagles defense going into 2025. The number one overall defense in the NFL. Josh Sweat, gone, got paid. Milton Williams, gone, got paid. Isaiah Rodgers, out. Looks as though Darius Slay signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Although, does Garnder-Johnson getting traded lead to Darius Slay coming back? We'll certainly see. But now Garnder-Johnson has been traded away as well. Now, Gardner-Johnson is due $8.5 million and $11.5 million over the next 2 years. Green, whose time with the Texans was sporadic and up and down, is in the last year of his rookie deal at $2.88 million. Clearly here, you have to trust Jeff Stoutland because he sees a lot of potential in Kenyon Green, who is a former first-round pick who at times has played well, at other times has not played well at all. And what I think the Eagles' thinking here could be, a couple of things, right? This probably signals that Mekhi Becton is gone, and good for him. He revitalized and revived his career, and he's probably going to make $14 to $20 million in free agency. If Aaron Banks of the 49ers got 19 plus, Mekhi Becton should stay at guard, and he can cash in for 18 to 20 realistically. I know he wants to come back to the Eagles, but not at that price tag. It's not realistic. And so this is cost-controlled stuff by Howie Roseman in Philadelphia here to get rid of CJ Garnder-Johnson. They probably know at some point, given the exploding safety market, that they want to try to retain Reed Blankenship, who I believe is going into the final year of his deal. Getting rid of CJ Gardner-Johnson allows the Eagles to do that. Darius Slay had said Reed Blankenship is next up in the secondary as far as being that leader, and so that's how that money can be allocated there. And then the Eagles are able to save a lot of coin and let Mekhi Becton go, bring in Kenyon Green, former first-round pick with pedigree. Howie Roseman loves signing players with pedigree. And they also have Tyler Steen, who can play both guard spots, and he can serve as, at the very least, a backup, or at least have a competition between Kenyon Green and Tyler Steen at that guard spot. Now, let's talk more about Kenyon Green here. And let's take a look at his Pro Football Focus numbers and his background. Look, he's still very young. He's 23 years old. He'll turn 24 in a couple of days on March 15th. He was taken in the first round, pick number 15 out of Texas A&M. He is 6'4", 323. He was a two-time consensus All-American while in college at Texas A&M in 2020 and in 2021. First team All-SEC in 2021 as well. Second team All-SEC in 2020. And so the Eagles, think about what they've done in recent memory, right? They trust their player development program. They trust their coaching staff to put players in a position to succeed, to maximize players, and if they are bust with their original teams, to get these players on track. And so I think that's what they're thinking here, clearly is with a player like Kenyon Green, who has pedigree, who's played well at times, who has good speed, who has good athleticism, ran a 5.24 40-yard dash. He's a good scheme fit, and they're bringing him in so that he can be tutored by Jeff Stoutland. And look at what Jeff Stoutland has done, and think about what Jeff Stoutland has done with literally almost every single offensive lineman who Howie Roseman has brought in. Mekhi Becton looked to be a bust. The Jets were mocking him. They didn't exercise his fifth-year option. They wanted no part of him. The Eagles brought him in. They said, hey, he can be either a swing tackle, he can step in for Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata if they get hurt. And then Nick Sirianni pitched, let's try him at guard with Tyler Steen out. And then they never looked back. And Mekhi Becton was an absolute mauler at that guard spot, pivotal in the Eagles' running success, and a good pass protector as well. For Kenyon Green, he played 582 snaps at left guard. That's Landon Dickerson's home. So he's either going to be a backup at left guard, has the versatility to play both guard spots, or the Eagles can just plug him in at right guard. But the Pro Football Focus numbers were not good at all for Green in 2024. Keep in mind, this is a Houston Texans team that had a terrible offensive line. And their offensive line coach, not to the likes of Jeff Stoutland. And so if the Eagles can make this work, that's impressive. But Green had an overall PFF grade of 38.6, pass blocking grade of 39.7, run blocking grade of 44.6. He had 7 penalties, 5 sacks allowed, 4 hits allowed, and he gave up 28 total pressures. As for the year before that, let me take a look at his numbers here. Didn't really play. He had that injured shoulder, that's right. But then in 2022, after he was a first-round pick, he played 15 games, had 14 starts. So going into the final year of his rookie deal, he comes to Philadelphia with 27 games played, 23 starts. And so let's take a look at how he fared with this Pro Football Focus numbers in 2022. Once again, not good. 823 snaps played at left guard. Overall PFF grade of 37.7. Pass blocking grade of 27. Run blocking grade of 47.4. So up to this point, he has been a huge bust for Houston. And in 2022, when he started as a first-round pick, 12 penalties, 4 sacks given up, 12 hits allowed, and 47 total pressures. This would be a miracle project for Jeff Stoutland. And we've seen the Eagles do this before. We've seen the Eagles being able to flex their player development muscles and make moves like this work. But you now lose a focal point of your defense, a huge member of your Philadelphia Eagles culture. Your back end takes a big hit. And now you lose Mekhi Becton at right guard. You're taking a chance on a former first-round pick who has not performed well at all up to this point. So, according to John Clark, he said, "It's my understanding that the Eagles are doing everything they can to make money available to keep the core of their team together, and they want to see what third-round draft pick Sidney Brown can do at safety. He will compete at safety with CJ Garnder-Johnson traded." This is kind of a shocking move. CJ Garnder-Johnson tweeting out, "I love you, Philly. We forever champions." And look, Sidney Brown is a former third-round pick. I thought he played pretty well as a rookie. He played very well on special teams last year. But he is not the player that CJ Garnder-Johnson is. But you think about moving off of CJ Garnder-Johnson, you insert Sidney Brown. That is once again a cost-controlled move for the Eagles. And you have to imagine that they're either going to take a safety in the draft at 32, they're going to sign a veteran safety depth piece in NFL free agency. I was at the NFL Combine a couple of weeks ago, and the Eagles are very high on and met with Alabama safety Malachi Moore, and that's the player who I would like the Eagles to take at 32. They don't have a lot of needs on that roster, but now safety is one of them. And Howie Roseman did say something of note recently. When we bring in players, whether it be through the draft or in free agency, we want those players to be able to play right away. That is a part of their team-building strategy now. Forget developmental pieces who take a long time. We want these players to make an impact right away, strike while the iron is hot. And think about it. When you draft these rookies, you got them for 4 or 5 years on that cost-controlled contract. You don't want to waste a year or two in trying to develop them. But massive, massive news. Shocking news for Philadelphia. And I'm excited to see what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson can do on that back end under D'Amico Ryans. The drama never ends with the Philadelphia Eagles. They always keep things very, very interesting. And that is the case once again. I'll be live a little bit later on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Be sure to tap into the show. We'll see you in a bit. And the next move that the Eagles make, and every single move that the Eagles make, I'll be reacting to it.